want to shut up?
A few months ago, I got to see a very special screening of Rosemary's Baby to celebrate its 50th anniversary. I really enjoyed it and kept thinking about it long after the credits had rolled.
Hey, let's make love.
The film follows a young couple as they move into a new apartment, only to be surrounded by peculiar neighbours and occurrences. When the wife, Rosemary, becomes mysteriously pregnant, paranoia over the safety of her unborn child begins to control her life. Since watching the film, I have read several reviews and articles explaining and examining how Rosemary's Baby has influenced modern day horror. While I see these connections, I still believe that it is very rare to see films, especially horror films, that are being made like this nowadays. There is very little physical violence on display at all. It is impressive just how much the director, Roman Polanski, holds back on any sort of dramatic outburst from anyone other than Rosemary. This in turn builds an eerily tense atmosphere throughout. With this incredible build of paranoia and suspense, the audience is never allowed to feel comfortable in their viewing. I'm hesitant to praise the director too much, because Roman Polanski is not a good person. But I do really appreciate this movie. As I mentioned, I believe this movie is very unique. It doesn't rely on jump scares, special effects, gore or monsters, but it still leaves the audience feeling scared for Rosemary. This is because it uses realist horror. It taps into fears of pregnancy, of being a stranger in a strange new neighbourhood, and most of all, Rosemary's biggest fear comes to life in the form of losing control. The film keeps us grounded with Rosemary, often literally putting us into her point of view. So we live out these fears and worries as she does, while being cooped up in a new apartment with very few alternative distractions. Both the audience and Rosemary slowly realise that they are being kept prisoner. She is constantly discouraged from doing what she feels is right, even to the extent where she is told not to read. This happens several times throughout the film, and her husband even takes a book from her, putting it just out of reach. This is a subtle act of disempowering her by depriving Rosemary of education.
I mean it now. Give it to me.
Everyone else in the film seems to know what's best for her. Guy, her husband, is just one of many characters that asserts their dominance on her. Any attempts she makes to show individuality are stripped from her. Her intrusive neighbours always interrupt and put a stop to any attempts at making her house a home. She is even scoffed at for her new short haircut. Mia Farrow is brilliant in the titular role. This film wouldn't have worked with anyone less talented. Very few people are more vulnerable than a pregnant woman, and so Rosemary makes for the perfect horror protagonist. Her horrified reactions in the film's climax are enough to startle even the most hardened of horror fans. While there are no poor performances in this film, Farrow truly carries it. This film is not short, however, its extended runtime allows the director to utilise screen time to drag out the impending doom to its absolute limits. It is a slow burn, psychological horror in the best possible way. Even though the film is set in a very modern, spacious apartment, the director manages to make it all seem more and more cramped, as if Rosemary's surroundings are closing in on her as the film progresses, which of course is no accident. Her pregnancy acts as a time bomb, which is a brilliant narrative device. Neither she or the audience know how this will turn out, but the chances are that it won't be good, and the due date grows ever closer as the film progresses. If I wasn't seeing this in the theatre, I probably wouldn't have fully appreciated it. My short attention span would have led me to checking my phone and probably even browsing Facebook. At home, I am surrounded by potential distractions, but as it were, in the darkness of the theatre, I was held captive. I believe this is a problem with a lot of modern audiences, which would back up my observation that very few films are made like this anymore. However, this film is fantastic and it is so worth the time and concentration. Oh, and one final thing that particularly freaked me out was the baby's due date. The 28th of June. My frickin' birthday. Colour me spooked. Granted, this film came out in 1968, 27 years before I was born, but that's a spooky coincidence. Next time I celebrate my birthday, I guess I'll have to remember to raise a glass to the son of Satan too. And now, thank you very much for listening. I've always said that my two big passions are comics and films, so it was only a matter of time before I branched into making this kind of video. All constructive feedback is welcome, and if you want to see more of this kind of video, then please leave a like and maybe even share it with your friends. However, most importantly, go and watch Rosemary's Baby, and let me know in the comments what films you would like me to discuss next.